Welcome back, focused learners. I am so thrilled to have you here for today's explainer because we're tackling something that affects absolutely every single one of us. We're looking at a fascinating framework called the conscious architecture of life management. You know, most of the time, we treat life kind of like a movie we're just sitting back and watching in a theater, right? Like it's just a passive series of events that simply happen to us. But what if we completely flip that script? What if, instead of being a passive audience member, you actually treated your life as a deliberate, hands-on architectural project?
So let me ask you, is your life driving you, or are you driving your life? If you ever get to the end of your day feeling completely exhausted, totally overwhelmed, and wondering where on earth the hours actually went, well, you are definitely not alone. We so often feel this deep sense of overwhelm because psychologically, we just kind of assume things should naturally fall into place. We default to passivity because, frankly, active management is energetically expensive. It takes literal mental calories to organize, to plan, and to say no. So we let our guard down, expecting a natural rhythm to just emerge on its own. But here is the crazy paradox we're going to unravel today. Our default state is actually chaotic. If you aren't gripping the steering wheel, you're just going to be taken along for the ride.
The source material drops a really powerful truth on us here. It says, life is a chaotic force that needs to be tamed. Let that sink in for a second. Order and peace, they don't just magically manifest out of thin air. Order has to be actively created. The absolute core thesis we're exploring in this explainer is that if you want a manageable, fulfilling life, you have to initiate conscious intervention. You literally have to step in and tame the chaos.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the paradox of responsibility, taming the chaos.
The foundational truth here is that life is simply not inherently orderly or manageable. Why does taking control require such intense, deliberate effort? Well, it's because you are fighting against natural entropy every single day. Think about it. Your inbox. It never naturally clears itself to zero. Laundry certainly doesn't magically fold itself, and your calendar will absolutely double book itself if you just leave it unchecked. So, if your schedule feels messy, or if balancing work and home feels incredibly difficult, I want to validate that experience for you right now. You aren't doing it wrong. The system of life itself defaults to untamed disorder. It requires constant management precisely because it's wild by nature. Every single moment of peace, every well-executed week you have, is the direct result of human intervention against that natural entropy.
So how do we actually fight back against that entropy? We become architects. Conscious architecture is defined as the intentional observation and deliberate management of life's chaotic forces. We have to become the conscious architects of our own lives to truly thrive. This means we aren't just surviving the storm anymore. We're studying the weather patterns, we're gathering our materials, and we're building a shelter. Now, it requires a profound mindset shift. Stepping outside the chaos to observe it intentionally, that can actually feel incredibly uncomfortable at first. It requires cognitive dissonance, forcing yourself to pause in the exact moment when every instinct in your body is screaming at you to panic and react. But that pause, that little space between stimulus and response, that's exactly where the architect lives. That's where you deliberately manage the pieces rather than just letting them fall wherever.
Moving right along to Section 2, escaping the reactive trap, choosing to build. We are so often caught in what's called reactive living, basically being driven entirely by external circumstances. The urgent email comes in and you immediately abandon your deep work to panic reply. Or a minor inconvenience happens during your morning commute and bam, your mood for the entire week is ruined. You become a pinball, just endlessly bouncing off the bumpers, totally at the mercy of whatever hits you next. And honestly, it is an incredibly exhausting way to live. Contrast that right side by side with proactive living, which means taking the reins and directing the course yourself. Proactive living challenges you to anticipate those bumpers. It means deciding what your priorities are way before the emails start flying. It is the conscious choice to stop being the pinball and start being the player.
All right, Section 3, consciousness as your compass, the architect's tools.
You know, the very act of managing life inherently implies a rock-solid foundation of deep awareness and intentionality. And this is exactly where so many of us get trapped. We think life management is just about going out and buying a brand new planner, downloading a fancy new productivity app, or writing out a really long to-do list. But those are just surface-level band-aids if the foundation isn't actually there. True life management fundamentally starts in your mind. It starts by becoming a conscious observer of your own existence. If you aren't deeply aware of what's happening, where your time goes, what spikes your anxiety, exactly who drains your energy, you can't possibly intend to change it. I mean, a hammer is totally useless if you don't know where the nail is, right? To help with this, the source provides 3 exact, highly actionable steps for developing this kind of conscious observation. First up, identify patterns. You have to study your life like you're a scientist. Maybe you realize there's a pattern where every single Tuesday at 3 p.m., your energy completely crashes, leading you to just doom scroll for an hour. Second, set goals. Where are you actually trying to steer this ship? And a goal isn't just a vague wish like, I want to be healthier. A proactive goal is, I will prep my lunches on Sunday to avoid buying fast food. And third, recognize obstacles. You have to anticipate the friction before you hit it. Let's walk through a quick mini scenario. Say your goal is to exercise after work. The pattern is that you usually crash on the couch instead. The obstacle is that driving all the way home strips away your motivation. So, the conscious architect recognizes this, brings their gym clothes directly to the office, and drives straight to the gym from work. Boom! You observe, you plan, and you outsmart your own chaos.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Building Your Life System, the Blueprint.
Viewing life as something to be managed absolutely implies a systems-based approach. Think of your life as interconnected parts: work, relationships, health, and personal life. For way too long, we have treated these like totally isolated buckets. We think we can just leave our relationship stress at home, or magically leave our work stress at the office. But life is not a series of isolated boxes. It is one living, breathing, deeply interconnected system. You cannot manage your career in a complete vacuum without the stress or even the success of it spilling over into your physical health or your personal relationships. They absolutely require a holistic perspective.
Because of that, an effective life management strategy demands this systems-based approach. Taming the chaos means recognizing that shifting one area inevitably impacts the entire life system. Think of a physical building. If you decide to drastically alter the weight load on one side of a house, the entire foundation has to compensate for that. If you put 80 hours a week of all your conscious architectural energy into your work, you are essentially borrowing that energy directly from your health or your relationships. And eventually, those areas will start to crumble under the uneven weight. Being a true architect means zooming out and making sure the foundation is level across the entire structure. It is all about sustainable engineering, not just slapping on short-term fixes.
So I want to leave you with one final, totally crucial question to think about. What part of your chaotic life will you tame today? Remember, the chaos definitely won't organize itself. The default state is and always will be untamed, but you now have the blueprint. You know that by bringing deep awareness, clear intentionality, and a holistic, systems-based perspective to your day, you can finally grab the reins. Don't just wait for life to happen to you. Go out there and consciously architect your proactive life system. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.